Welcome to the Spike Camp podcast. Spike Camp is a free online community for hunters that support conservation. It's a great place to share stories and your experience with other hunters. As a member of Spike Camp, you get access to all of our hunting live streams, discussion channels, contests, hunter resources, and events that we host. Membership to Spike Camp is free. Our only ask is that you are a member of a hunting or conservation group before you register. Head over to spikecamp.com to join us. This episode of the Spike Camp podcast is brought to you in part by Spartan Precision Equipment. Spartan Precision produces rifle and optic support systems that weigh less and do more. Born from backcountry hunting, their lightweight bipods and tripods aim to help you master your marksmanship. Visit javelinbipod.com to see their available products and learn more.
Okay, welcome to this episode of our Ram Down series. Tonight's guests are long-term Spike Camp member Chris Bentley and his partner and recent new to the platform member, Aiden Rebele. Boys, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot, Chuck. It's great to be here.
Awesome. I'm glad to have you guys on. Let's start first with Chris. I've known you the longest. I've only met Aiden just the other night on our test run here. But maybe you could share your background with the audience and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into hunting.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I'm a little bit different than I think a lot of the guests that you have on here. I don't come up from a hunting background. I don't have any family or friends that ever hunted. Most of my life growing up, I was avid skier, mountain biker, scuba diver. When I was came back into BC when I was about 40, one of my buddies was a real estate agent, and I referred him to sell a house, and being South African, his way of paying me back was giving me a shotgun. And so I had this shotgun, and when I was living in Calgary, me and the wife, some of our date nights was going to the gun range. So I had my pal, and so I started just questioning at the same time where my food was coming from, and I was getting a little old for the wear and tear that mountain biking was putting on me. And so next thing I know, I just signed up for my corps and got my hunting license. And my wife was kind of like, well, where'd you go? And next thing I know, I'm spending a lot of money on gear and doing tons of research, and it just became all consuming for me. And, luckily I met some really good guys through HBC and or Facebook at the time when I was on social media. And a couple guys are members to the Spike Camp here. Rob is one of them. He's a blacktail killer, and a few other really good guys. And, since then I just got all immersed, and I've hunted everything from turkey to bear to waterfowl, deer, moose, elk, goat, lynx, and now sheep. So, I've been hunting now for 8 years, and I love it. And it's something I plan to do for as long as I possibly can.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a lot done in 8 years. And one of the things that I found really interesting when you and I first met, I think you won a prize last year on one of our contests or giveaways or something. And I met you, and you and I chatted in the parking lot for half an hour or so. But I found it fascinating that you have really taken advantage of, the resources that are out there to establish relationships, right? Like not knowing anyone in the hunting space. And you mentioned some of the other, obvious forums and Facebook and stuff, which have been around forever. HBC's been around for 20 some odd years, and lots of people have connected on there. And, we're glad to see that it's continuing here at Spike Camp. But, it's just crazy, right? How quick you can get immersed into a community and pick up those friends that, like you're lucky. You got a blacktail guy, and you've got a deer hunting buddy, and you got a great sheep hunting partner or partners now. So yeah, I find that fascinating.
Yeah, I got really lucky. I've only had kind of one negative experience, but most of the time I've been very fortunate to meet, really genuine guys and girls for that matter. And, I can't say enough about how important mentorship is. I think a lot of people are fairly lucky that, they grow up with uncles or dads or grandpas or, family, or they have friends that do it. And, I think, from an outside point of view, it's those people are very lucky that they have that. Somebody that comes into it with, knowing no one, it can be very overwhelming, and it can be challenging to understand, what leads to success. And I think, somebody posted on Spike Camp, what does success mean to you? And, I've really been trying to think about that for the last few days. And it's a hard question to answer, but for me, I think it's the experience, and it's getting home safe, and it's getting out to meet good people and having good times, right? And if you're able to harvest an animal, I mean, that's a bonus. But yeah, I can't say enough about how good mentors can really help somebody's success rate, and just making it so that your learning curve is exponential.
Yeah, exactly. And, that's one of the things that I really believe strongly in, is there's no stupid question when it comes to life, or in particular in our world, in the hunting space, right? And that's one thing I love, is when a new hunter comes on the platform, or someone new or relatively new, inexperienced, whether they're new to hunting or they're new to a particular species, you can ask a question and you will get a respectful answer, and you'll more than likely get some help, and you might end up with a private message full of all kinds of tips and tricks. And that for me was like one of the foundations for us when we started this, was, and that's what actually set me off, was one of the other channels that were out there. I saw somebody get completely ripped and torn apart for asking a question about boots. And for me, it's like, come on, if this was a golf forum or hockey forum or whatever, would it happen? Probably. But yeah, so I completely agree. So, well,
Yeah, I think that's what brought me to Spike Camp, was the fact that, there's none of the polarizing topics here. It's all hunting, and it's a platform where everybody's very respectful. And I think that's what separates Spike Camp from a lot of the other platforms that are out there. And that's why I think I've kind of gone all in with Spike Camp since I've joined, and I've kind of been telling everybody I know about it, because I think it's just different than anything else you see out there.
Yeah, no, thanks. I appreciate that. And that's our goal, is to just do it right. And like I said, respect is first and foremost. It's in the welcome message I send you. That's the only rule we have, right? Everybody sees it. So you can't say you didn't see it, right? So anyway, Aiden, let's hear your story, buddy. I know you're fairly new to the platform. You got on this past fall. Tell us a bit about your background and how you got into hunting.
Sure. So I grew up here in the Lower Mainland in Mission. My dad's always had guns, like started shooting at 22 when I was, still single digit age, but we didn't really get into hunting until I was like, I don't know, maybe middle school, like grade 7, 8. Started hunting. My dad he's like a total newbie hunter too. And so we were just kind of stumbling along the bush, and middle of November, we happened to stumble on a buck, and that happened a few times, and we got a spike moose, shot a unicorn, and that's kind of how I got into it. And then from there, like after I graduated, I kind of went off on my own, and like I wanted to learn about how the animals move, like see their patterns and actually learn how to hunt properly, not just blindly walking in the bush or whatever. So I started by like reading forums, talking to people. I have a few buddies that hunt, so I went with them. Took me a few years, but I got grade 12 actually. I shot my first buck, and I got a LEH draw on the Sunshine Coast. I got a beautiful bull elk. I think it scored,
Oh my goodness.
316.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was incredible. And like I was just hooked. And since then, hunting's been everything. I mean, I was talking to Chris beforehand, and he was saying like, yeah, I thought it was funny when your parents said, I wish you put as much effort into your school as you did hunting.
Yeah, a lot of people on here, their parents would say the same thing.
And then in terms of backcountry, I hadn't really done any backcountry hunting precisely before our sheep hunt, but I had done tons of backcountry hiking, like kayaking. My family paddled down the Stikine River. ended in Wrangell, Alaska. Just tons of hikes. I've spent probably like 60, 70 nights in the bush throughout my life, and I've always wanted to get into backcountry hunting, like hiking in, setting up your camps, spike camps, and then getting your animal that way, packing it out. Like I just love the adventure and the reward that comes with that.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, you could see if people are listening to this on the podcast downrange, you should probably go to YouTube and watch this young man's face light up when he mentioned his elk. It was just like a Christmas tree, and you could just see the passion there. And thank you for that. That's awesome. We're glad to have you on, and I know Chris is excited to tell his version of the introduction. But before we jump into that, I would also like to come back to Chris here for a second. For those that don't know, Chris is a board member of the SCI West Coast chapter, and we're very happy to announce that the SCI West Coast chapter is joining Spike Camp as one of our conservation partners. We're going to roll out a big announcement here in the next week or so. And I just wanted to talk to Chris a little bit about SCI, and maybe you could share what's going on and tell our listeners a little bit about the organization.
Yeah, and again, Chuck, it's great. I love the partnership, and I couldn't be happier to be part of the facilitation of getting SCI and Spike Camp to be partners on conservation. For me, obviously, conservation is very important in what we do. And again, me being as new as I am, I feel very fortunate to have been given the opportunity to actually join the board with SCI. It's only been about 4 or 5 months, so I'm still fairly new, but I think the thing that sets it apart for me is that there's a big focus not just on wildlife conservation, science-based, and also the fact that they're doing it worldwide, but they also are the leader in defending the freedom to hunt. And for me, I think that's important, is trying to maintain our heritage. So they also recently became partners in the Canadian Wildlife Conservation Partner Program. Chris Everett is our Canadian chair of SCI, and she's on the steering committee along with Kyle Stetler from Wild Sheep Society of BC. So this is a partnership also including Delta Waterfowl and the Fur Institute of Canada. So it's pretty exciting to see that that's also kicking off. The one thing I always see when you see kind of elections happening or anything like that is vote splitting. And, I think what this does is it brings people together. And I think it's really important in conservation to have that where we're all working towards the same goal, particularly here in BC and Canada. With SCI, we have our banquet coming up on March 7th. There'll be live auctions, safaris, hunts, trips, guns, equipment, door prize. Anybody interested, I can share a link. There's a poster already on the platform. It's in Pitt Meadows at the Loft. It'll be a great night. It'll be a lot of fun, a lot of like-minded hunters there, and non-hunters as well. So, my wife will be there, etc., and it should be a great time. One thing that, you and I talked about last night that you seemed pretty excited about was, if you become a life member right now of SCI, you'll get a certificate for a 4-day, 4-night Argentina dove hunt for 2 hunters, which is pretty cool. And so, SCI always tries to do things to generate memberships. Also March 1st, I know this was another one that you kind of were happy to hear about, was March 1st, we'll have tickets go on sale for a Cape Buffalo hunt. There'll be $100 a ticket, and it'll be a 1 in 500 chance. We'll be posting a link on our website on where to make the purchase. It'll also include a Bruno 602 in 458 lot built by Gary Flack. It'll come with rings and a loophole scope. It includes airfare, rifle import, and outfitter tip. So, when you're on a big hunt like that, how much an outfitter tip can be. So this pretty much covers all costs for the individuals that will win that hunt. The great thing about SCI, is one, they're huge. And I know a lot of people think, is it Africa or is it big in the US? But actually all the money we raise from the West Coast chapter comes back into BC, plus a bunch of money from from the foundation as well. So, you know, in 2025, one of our main fundraising objectives was to support the training and trapping efforts for the Taltown Wildlife Program, the purpose of which is to get insight into the effect grizzly bears are having on the moose and caribou populations. Our chapter alone donated $10,000 to the cause, with SCI also adding funds through the matching grant program. That program in general, I think so far, you know, it's going to be over 3 years. They're capturing grizzlies in aldrich foot snares, collecting biological samples, and deploying Vectronic collars with an on-board video camera. This is all at a cost of over $500,000. So we're happy to be a supporter of that. Another cool thing that we're working on this year for a fundraising project is procurement and assembly of a sensory safari trailer. That's to be taken to different outdoor shows. It's going to be used at events and schools, not only as an educational piece for the visually impaired, but it'll be for the general populace as well. So besides our March 7th banquet, we'll also have a booth at the Wild Sheep Mountain Expo in Penticton. So I'll be up there with Keith and Ken, a couple other board members, as well as we'll be at the outdoor show in Chilliwack, March 13th to 15th. So come by, say hi. Look forward to meeting everybody and, you know, sharing what SCI does.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. So many good things. The you talked about unifying groups and you know, the subject of vote splitting. Again, that's another foundation, you know, pillar for us too, is trying to have, you know, one voice for hunting, conservation, firearm rights should be thrown in that as well. And the more we can do in our community to keep people pointed in the right direction and pulling the rope together, I think is so important. You talked a little bit about the CWCP. I've chatted with Kyle about that. He's extremely excited. I know the community here is in the Wild Sheep Society community in particular is very excited about that, and looking forward to see more groups come together. And, you know, congratulations to you guys for all the hard work that you do there.
Yeah, you know, I think it's, like I said, I think it's a great initiative. I know it's still fairly new, but I think the more, you know, that we can get those groups coming together. You know, I'm a member of not only SCI, I'm a member of Wild Sheep. I'm a member of BCWF. I'm a member of the Canadian Wild Turkey Federation. I mean, I try to put as much of my own money that I can into as many organizations. I want to try and get into the Rocky Mountain Goat Alliance, as well as the Rocky Mountain Elk Federation. So, you know, again, I'm still only 8 years into it, but I have some pretty lofty goals. And, you know, I'd love to be able to get to become eventually like a Monarch member and a lifetime member at both SCI and Wild Sheep, and just do everything I can to support all the organizations that do so much work here in BC for our wildlife, as well as for our hunting heritage.
Yeah, for sure. No, and that's, so many people take that same path. I mean, you got to start somewhere. You get a base membership and you move up, and there's so many incentives that come in the membership drives in all of those organizations. It's hard not to, you know, I'm the same. I have memberships in a whole bunch of them, and I tried to fill out you know, in my little profile, I think it was on Instagram, on like, you know, member of this, member of that. I gave up because I ran out of room, and my wife just rolls her eyes. And I said, hey, you know, it's all going to great homes. This money is important, and, you know, it's part of our lifestyle and community, and we have to do our part. So it's awesome. There'll be lots of incentive coming. I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag, but we're going to be doing some membership incentive stuff here for all of our conservation partners coming up here in the next couple of months. So stay tuned for that. So, okay. Well, what do you say, guys? Should we talk about sheep hunting for a while?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Let's do it. All right. Well, so it wasn't just two of you, it was three of you on this hunt. And there's a gentleman on our platform named Clay Weber. He's very supportive of Spike Camp as well. And he has been a mentor for many, many sheep hunters. He's been doing it for a long time. I don't want to, you guys can go ahead and tell his age, but I out of respect for him, I'm not going to, but he's older than me, if you guys can believe that. And I think he did he do 3 sheep hunts this year? I think he did.
Yeah, he did 3 sheep hunts. Yeah, and he was part of 2 that got harvested. I'm sure they would have had one on the other hunt, but there was just
31. He says he's 31, Chris. Yeah. He
he's
hunts like it.
31. Yeah. He hikes like it. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
He's a tough guy.
So, okay, well, I'm going to turn the mic over to you, Chris. You walk us through. I want to hear the details, how you guys connected with Aiden. That's a great story. And then just walk us through the replacement story is what we call it.
Yeah, replacement, definitely. Well, I'll start by saying, it was probably about, I guess, around 4 years ago. I was trying to get into goat hunting, and I've been on a couple of goat hunts where I got on pretty good goats, like one I call a super nanny. She probably had 10, 11-inch horns. She was by herself, but when I saw her pee, I knew it wasn't a billy, and that wasn't what I was looking for. So I let her walk. But when I was kind of getting into that, I had saw a post on HBC. This is before Spike Camp was around, and that's when Clay had posted kind of about, hey, I'm sheep hunt, anybody wants to meet up, and lo and behold, we both live in Pitt Meadows. In fact, we live just down the street from each other. So we just met up, and over the years we just became closer friends and talked a lot about it. And it was probably early in 2025. I had gone to lunch with Clay and another fellow, Ryan, who I believe is on the site as well, and we were chatting about what our plans were. And Clay was kind of telling me, you really got to think about doing a sheep hunt. And I was like, well, I don't really know anybody. I don't really know where to start. And so he just said, well, maybe I can make it work where we can go. It depends. I have some other plans with other people, but we'll see. And so we just started training together last year. Clay and some other fellows would go out, and basically every week we were doing hikes, whether it was Minnetonka or we did Monroe Lake. We tried getting out even to Golden Ears a couple times in like swampy rain. And but we just started planning it, and everything kind of started coming together. I had my buddy Angus, who was going to be my partner at the time. And so Clay, Angus, and I were out training basically every weekend for months on end. And we were supposed to be leaving on a Friday. We were going up kind of the last week of August and the first week of September for the 2 weeks was kind of our planned hunt. And on the Tuesday before, when I was supposed to be, the Tuesday before the Friday when we were supposed to be going, all of a sudden I was getting like a few phone calls from Angus, and he doesn't normally call me back to back. So, I'm at work. I stepped out of my warehouse where I don't get a very good signal and call him back, and he's in the hospital. He had an accident with his dog. Dog gave him a pretty serious gash across his face by accident. And he wasn't going to be able to come on the hunt anymore. And so I'm standing outside my work, kind of looking to the heavens going, what am I going to do here? This is, there's a lot of planning that went into it, from cost to, carrying the weight and the gear, etc. And, with everything, I didn't know if we were still going to be able to go or not. And I was like, oh, I got to call Clay and figure out like what's going to be our pivot plan here. And I had met another fellow off of HBC a while back. He's an older gentleman in his 80s, and he had put out a post a couple of years ago saying, I'd really like if somebody could take me out hunting. Most everybody I know is don't hunt anymore, or they're not around anymore. And so I figured in my way, kind of pay it forward for all the help that I've received over the years from other people, that I'd go on this hunt with this older gentleman. And I did. And, we mostly road hunted. We got some access to property. We weren't having much luck. The last day of our hunt, finally, it was whitetail hunting. I said, here, just give me a minute. Let me do something different. And managed to harvest a whitetail. So he was pretty happy. And we've kind of stayed in touch since. And anyways, I looked at my phone, and I'm standing outside my work after talking with Angus, and I never get texts from Tom. And I'm looking down, there's this text from Tom, really random. And it says, hey, I just saw a post on Facebook. Somebody's looking for a sheep hunting partner. Are you interested? I'm sitting there going, how did he know? Like, how did this happen? Like, my phone
It's
buzzed?
crazy.
Like, doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And so I'm not on any social media. So I asked Tom, I said, hey, could you pass along my phone number? And so shortly after, I get a call, and it's Aiden. And, I'm talking to him, and I'm telling him how, I have this hunt planned and something fell through, and this might be your lucky day. And, I'm going with this legend who, is a 50-year sheep hunter, probably nobody better that we could ever think to go on a sheep hunt with. And so I said, well, why don't you come and meet us at his property and bring all your gear, and we'll kind of do an interview. So the next day, Aiden drives out to Pitt Meadows, brings all his gear, 80 pounds of it, no food. And so we start going through all his gear, and it's kind of like, yeah, you're going to bring this. No, you're not going to bring this. And after chatting with him, we could tell, he's a good kid, and it seemed like he would know what he was doing. And Clay felt comfortable with it. And so we were like, it's a big commitment, right? You're spending a lot of money, you're doing a big trip, and there's a lot of safety components that go into it. You're all looking out for each other, and you got to work together, and you got to get along. There's a lot of ups and downs with sheep hunting. We found for sure, even being our first, and we're very fortunate it worked out. But so this is on the Wednesday, and we're leaving on the Friday. So Thursday night, Clay and I get a text from Aiden saying, hey, we got my parents want to meet you guys. And so he's like, would you mind if my parents came by your house tomorrow before we go? And so Clay and I are like, sure, of course, no problem. Obviously they want to make sure we're not some sort of serial killers taking their boy out to the bush and he's never going to come back home, right? And so they came out the day we were leaving, and we got to meet both his parents. They're great individuals and super nice, and you can tell he comes from an amazing family. And his mom basically pulled Clay aside and said, you look after my boy, you make sure that we make right decisions out there. And so so that was kind of it. That's how we met the replacement here, and the rest is kind of history from there.
Wow, that's incredible. So I got to ask you, Aiden, this must have been pretty overwhelming to you, and I would bet you were probably wondering, like, what am I getting into, right? I don't know these guys. Yeah. One's in his 50s, and one is apparently in his 30s, which we know, you might have to stack a few decades on top of that, Clay. We're not going to let you loose that easy. But yeah, I mean, what was going through your mind when obviously you had the passion and the drive so badly that you were basically, lack of a better term, willing to go on Tinder to look for a sheep hunting partner, right?
Yeah, I mean, to say I got lucky is like, that's an understatement. Like, it's insane. Like, I am so grateful for the opportunity and how much I learned. So initially, like, I've been wanting to go on a sheep hunt for a few years. I've been trying to convince my buddy to get some time off work, my brother, my dad. No one can take the time off. So I'm like, okay, fine. This year I'm just gonna go with myself. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm gonna learn everything I can. And I'm just gonna try my best. Safety's number one goal. Like, got all the gear, got everything, and I was planning on going solo, just hiking in off the highway and having a go, seeing how it went. And it's like the week before I'm supposed to go, maybe less than a week before I'm headed out. And my mom's she's like, oh, he's serious about this. He's actually going to go by himself. She's like, okay, just, you need to put a post out. Just ask if you can, if anyone's going and you can go with them. I'm like, Mom, it's not going to work. No one's going to take me 3 days before I'm supposed to leave. So I did this post and I explained my situation, and it's exactly like Chris said, and I was like, it was just disbelief. Like, I phoned him and we're talking, and I'm just in disbelief that this may actually go through. And then when it does, like, the whole drive up, I'm just like, there's no way this is real. Like, how am I going on a sheep hunt with Clay and Chris and someone who's so experienced and getting this opportunity that is just incredible. Like I would never have had that if it didn't line up perfectly.
It's amazing when you think about it, right? Like uh, I've talked to so many people over the years that have done similar things where they connect with somebody for a sheep hunt that they don't know, or they don't know well enough. When you think about the level of like issues and considerations that have to be taken into on a sheep hunt, like Chris, you touched on a few, the safety, I mean, the logistics, the financing, and that who's going to shoot first, and gun safety, and how to act in the bush. I mean, it's got to be just unbelievable for you. I'm very curious about this first introduction when you guys got together to go through the gear. So tell us about that, Aiden. You show up with your pack. What was going through your mind when you popped the pack open?
I thought I was doing pretty good. Like,
Yeah.
I thought it was a reasonable weight, but and I didn't know what I could get rid of. And, I mean, part of the problem I ended up taking this was my 10-pound tripod.
That'll do it. Yeah.
Not quite 10 pounds, but that ended up coming actually because it's what I had, and I wanted to glass and practice. But yeah, we tuned down my gear a little bit, and like I was nervous to show up and meet these people that I've never met before, and like get to know them and hope that they like me and want to take me. And nervous, excited. Yeah.
So Chris, fill me in a little. Did you guys consolidate gear and share gear, or like was it how many tents? Like how did you map out all of this stuff?
Yeah, so like Clay and I and we kind of had a plan going in to what we were going to be doing. So we were taking 2 rifles, not 3 rifles between us. We were taking 1 tent. We were only planning on originally taking 1 spotter and a tripod and splitting it. But Aiden, he wanted to bring his, so we weren't going to argue. And then, from a food perspective, we all kind of brought our own food. I went pretty hard on the dehydrated, which wasn't good. I think Aiden went in with, I don't know, 20 pounds of food or something, or maybe more. I don't know.
At least 20.
Yeah, he had a lot of food. So we were kind of opposite ends of the spectrum. And then you get Clay, who's so seasoned. I mean, he just knows what to bring, right? And so I learned a lot on this hunt, particularly around, I think a couple key things, how important water is, what to bring for food. So when you're up in the Alpine, you can't be having dehydrated meals. You can't be carrying water up there. So, bringing up the salami, bringing up the cheeses, those sort of things was really key. And I mean, I brought some, but I definitely didn't bring enough. And so, those were a couple key learnings for sure. And I think you learn it from the experience, right? You get out there and you really see, wow, I'm fairly fortunate that pretty much everything in my bag I used. When I got home, I actually went through everything in my bag and I was like, did I take anything I didn't need to take? And pretty much everything I used. I think the tent was great. It was Clay's. It was believe it or not, it was I think it was a 3-man or 4-man. I can't remember, but we fit in it well. It had 2 vestibules, and I mean, it worked out perfect. It's pretty light tent. I think it's just like a MEC tent or something, but so I think Aiden took the poles, and I think maybe I took the tent itself, or vice versa. I can't remember. And then we both had our own spotters and tripods, and we both had our own rifles, so that we could kind of share that weight, and then we all had our own gear after that. So
yeah, I think the one lesson sheep hunters learn, and they continue to learn year after year, is what your body needs for food, right? Like you can count calories till you're blue in the face, but at the end of the day, you've got to figure it out for yourself, how much, what you like, have some variety. Like we're always learning, and that's one of the things I do is and I've mentioned this before, people have heard me say it. I have my list before. I'm a list guy for everything. So I have my list of gear that I'm going to take. And every time I get back from a trip, I review that list and I make a second list of things that I don't want to take again or don't need to take or didn't use. And then also what I would change. Make your notes, right? You're sitting around at night, you're reviewing the day, make your notes. So Aiden, what were some of the bigger things you pulled out of your pack before you left? Obviously, food you probably had a lot of. Did you revise that at all before you left?
Yeah, I had a lot of candy.
Uh-huh.
So
I'm not surprised to hear that, young guy.
I mean, quick carbs, easy. But
Yeah.
no, I had a lot of candy, and I like going into it, I tried to calculate my calories, and I was trying to bring like I knew I'd be burning a ton, so I was trying to bring like 2,500, 3,000 calories a day. But after talking to Clay, like I just realized like that's just not possible. Like you're gonna be losing weight on a sheep hunt. You can't possibly pack that much and it be sustainable. So cut out the things I didn't need, cut out the candy. That was like probably 5 pounds of candy. I still brought a decent amount. And then cutting out some of my other food, like I had a lot of wraps, so I cut out some wraps. I kept my 2 big salamis. I think I had 1.2 kilograms of salami,
Mhm.
and another kilogram of cheese. And those, like, I would do that again. Like those just
Oh yeah.
they keep you. They're so energy dense. Like they're perfect for.
Well, not only that, it's just like it's a massive morale booster to slice a chunk of sausage and take a bite of cheese in
Oh
the
yeah,
middle
there's
of the day.
nothing
I
better
mean, it's
than-
like granola bars are great, protein bars, blah blah blah, and they're good, and you got to mix it up. But yeah, for sure, you've got to have that variety and some real food for sure. Absolutely.
And then in terms of gear, I think I had a bit too much clothing, so I think I took out a sweater or two. I didn't end up using. I have this. It's from Cabela's. It's just like oh, I forget. It's waterproof. It's like silent on the outside, but it's kind of heavy. It was like 4 or 5 pounds for no, maybe 3 pounds, but for the pants and jacket, like it was pretty heavy. I didn't use that, so I think next time I would change my rain gear. Like
Mhm.
change my rain gear. I had a really nice wool sweater. I love that. I was initially going to bring my own tent, so we removed that. That saves, I think, 5 pounds. Yeah. Is there anything else?
Yeah, I mean, we took our tarps, like we had sill tarps, and so
Right.
you know, I think on the day in, you set yours up kind of teepee style just to practice setting them up.
Oh, no, I forgot about that.
And we did use them though. We used them more for sunshades than anything, to be
Mhm.
honest. The weather on our trip was blazing hot, you know, until the smoke rolled in near the end, but we didn't see really any inclement weather or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, outside of that, I think we pretty much used most of everything we brought.
No, that's awesome. Well, it was nice too that you have, that third man with all the experience to kind of say, you don't need this or you should bring that, right? That saved you guys a lot of calories burned by packing that extra stuff if you didn't have to.
Oh yeah, if Clay wasn't there, I think I would have been carrying a hatchet. I mean, I would have been carrying all this stuff that you just wouldn't have needed, right? But going in, you're thinking, oh well, how am I gonna, what am I gonna do to start a fire? What if I need to get sticks? And then you realize when you're up there, you can just break that stuff with your hands in most instances, or you just collect it from where you need it.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, having a experienced mentor, I don't think there's anything that's more valuable on a hunt like this than that, because it just helps you from kind of start to finish in the entire process.
And you got 3 able-bodied people that are smart, can handle crises, can handle problems. And you just go back to that old saying, what if weighs a lot, right? When you start looking at, wow, what if I need this? Or what if I need that? Or what if this happens? You got 3 of you, you're going to figure it out, right? Like it's also, yeah, you can run into weather, you can run into all those things, but there's so many things get packed that never get touched in a lot of cases. And yeah, experience pays off so much. So let's dig into the hunt. Tell us about it. So you guys hit the trail. You flew in. You hit the trail, and you guys. I guess you and Clay had talked about the spot. I'm assuming Aiden was brought kind of read in late in the game, but I'll let you guys walk us through what happens next.
Yeah, so like before we went in, I think Aiden kind of had an idea, like he kind of wanted to, maybe go somewhere he had planned. And I just said, look, like we've got a spot, we're going here. This is what it is. We're flying in. Here's the cost. You need this much cash, and and then he was like, okay. After meeting us, he knew that was the plan, and he was going along with it. And so when we landed at the strip, we actually ran into a couple Spike Camp members that were departing the same time. Believe it or not, they're named Hayden and Caden. So shout out to those guys. They're sheep killers. They were coming out with a really nice ram. I think it was very similar to the ram I ended up harvesting. So at the time I was looking at it just in awe, right? Like, wow, look at these guys. And they had hiked pretty far. So we chatted with them for a bit when we landed, and then we got going. We did the hike in over 2 days. It was about 20 kilometers. So I think we did about 12 kilometers the first day. It took us about 9 hours, and then the next day we set up kind of a camp there, and there was water there, so just had a good evening there. And that's when I realized I had a new phone. I had an iPhone 16 that I had just picked up, and I bought I had a cable for it that when I was at home, I tested the USB-C cable on a device, not my phone, and oh yeah, this cable works no problem. Oh man, I get out to the bush, I plug my phone in that night to charge it up. Nope, no go.
No green arrow.
And so by day 2, my phone was dead, and I didn't have a phone the rest of the entire trip, which was kind of a punch to the gut. But luckily Aiden had his phone, and so I was kind of piggybacking his phone quite a bit to text the wife, keep her looped in, and take photos where I could and whatnot. But we'll come back to that part a little bit later in the story. So yeah, 2 days in, and so the second day we kind of got up almost into camp, and that's when Clay kind of stopped and said, okay, when we get up to this ridge here, we're going to be in sheep country, and we could very well see sheep from there, and we're not going to be very far from camp. And so we finished. That was kind of the steepest part, and we hike up in, and we get to the top, and right away I just look across the valley on the first ridge, and there's 3 rams just feeding away right there. And I mean, they look decent to me. I didn't know what the heck I was looking at, but obviously Clay, with his experience, he looked at them right away and said, yeah, no, they're not what we're looking for. Probably 5, 6, 7-year-olds sort of thing. And so we just proceeded on to camp, and got camp set up that day. And it's an amazing spot. You're just surrounded by sheep mountains in every direction, and you can literally blast right from your tent. So that evening, spotted a ram kind of over on a ridge, and we put them to bed. There was 2 rams over there, and one looked like it could be good. So we put them to bed, and we made a plan the next morning to go up after them. This is my first time, obviously, going up after a sheep. So, and I kind of, believe it or not, of course, the way things go, I kind of picked up a bit of a cold heading in. So I woke up, I was feeling like crap. And I packed my bag, and I basically packed the kitchen sink. And so we went, across this valley and across this ridge, and then down and up a saddle. And we're trying to get up above these rams to go down after them. And I was dying going up this ridge. I mean, I had too much weight. Everything I had was dehydrated pretty much. So I was taking water and everything else. And, Clay is like, what are you doing? Right. And so I almost got to the top, and then luckily Aiden, the pack mule here, came down and kind of helped me get up the rest of that ridge there. And then we were looking all around. We couldn't see the rams anywhere. So we kind of just hunkered down for a bit, and waited and just glassed around. And you know, I think I have pretty good eyesight. It's one of my, you know, superpowers, but this kid here has damn good eyesight too. So that paid dividends for us on this hunt for sure. Aiden picked out, we don't know if it was the same 2 rams or not. Could have been, maybe not. But they were down the valley, up the other side on another rock face, just bedded down, kind of looking back at us, laughing, you know, suckers, you missed us. And it was blazing hot that day. Like, we were getting cooked. So we'd set up kind of one of our tarps on a ridge so that we could get out of the sun a little bit. And never really saw anything after that. So made our way back to camp. Our water source was probably a mile and a half. We had to go kind of down a ridge and through a valley, and there was a spring. Amazing, like probably some of the best water, ice cold, crystal clear. Couldn't ask for anything better. But that was like the only water around there. So, you know, we would have to do water trips every kind of second day. I mean, I was going through probably 6 liters of water a day. And so, you know, there's a good example.
It looks hot. Looks hot.
It was hot. Yeah. And, you know, I'm wearing kind of a shirt hood. That's to keep the sun off of me from burning me, because I'm a bit sensitive, I guess you could say. And you can see Aiden's shirt wide open. You know, we're just trying to stay cool out there. But it was amazing country. You know, every day we were basically getting on rams. And so I think the next day, I can't remember. The next day did we push up behind us that next day?
I think we might have.
I think so too. So we pushed up behind us on this other ridge, and beyond that, you could kind of see just a whole nother set of mountain. I mean, you could see for miles. And we hiked all the way to the end of this range, and Clay's really close friends with the Pallisters and with Shane's recent passing. One of the things that Clay really wanted to do was build a cairn in Shane's honor. And so we spent, I don't know, a good hour, maybe a bit more, kind of collecting the biggest rocks we could find in the area, and built a pretty substantial cairn that I think on Clay's next sheep hunt that he had gone on later on in the season, he could see that cairn from, I don't know, like 6-7 miles away.
Wow.
Pretty cool experience. You know, and had some photos of Shane on it, and those photos remain there with him. That cairn should be there for hundreds of years. And it was a pretty special moment, something I'll remember for a really long time, and, you know, something that I could only wish that someone would do for me, you know, when my time comes. And you know, Greg and Darlene, obviously, you know, losing their son, we took a bunch of photos, and when we got back home, we put together a collage photo frame and sent it up to them, and, you know, that brought tears to their eyes, and it's in their, I think it's in their kitchen or living room now. And so again, pretty special moment, something I'll cherish forever. And then we hiked kind of all the way back and down the next ridge, and, you know, again, we're seeing sheep, but nothing really we want to go after. But again, this guy and his eyes, I mean, I don't know how far away it was. It was far, but he picked up this ridge that had goats on it. And so we're glassing up the goats and looking, and next thing we know, we're seeing he's picking up rams above the goats on the same ridge, like intermingled with each other, right next to this lick from I don't know, had to be somewhere between 6 and 8 miles away. And so, you know, if you're seeing a ram from that distance, it's a pretty good ram, right? And so, you know, like Clay saying, like, oh wow, like that's a good ram. And, you know, there's chatter about, you know, do we pack up camp and, you know, make a day or two trek over to that other mountain range and try and go after it? And I was like, are you guys crazy? And Clay is like, this is sheep hunting. But we decided to kind of hang out in that area since we were seeing pretty much rams every day. And but yeah, so we ended up finishing that day and getting back to camp. And again, next morning, wake up, we see another couple dandy rams in this other ridge heading the other direction. And so we kind of made a play over in that area. Again, one of the things that Clay really taught us was patience. For me, I'm always kind of like, go, you see something, get after it, right? Like, but he really taught us the value of patience and let your eyes do the walking, and try to get yourself in the right position versus trying to force a situation. And yeah, so I kind of hung back a little bit this day on this one ridge where we knew these rams were. I'd only saw a glimpse of this ram at camp for like literally a split second. He had come up and then disappeared around a rock, and we couldn't see him anymore from camp. So he looked like a good ram. So that's why we made a play to this other area. And we had seen them, but then again, they kind of disappeared. And so we were like, well, let's hang out. They'll probably come back up to feed later on that evening. So Clay and Aiden made a play up to this other ridge, and I'll let Aiden maybe take over what they were doing up there because I wasn't there. So
yeah, we were just sitting and waiting. And was this the time when were you there? Were you on the ridge but lower down?
I was lower down. Yeah.
Right.
And so you guys went up to that top spire.
Right. We went up to the spire, and like on one side there's just this huge bowl, and it's filled with sheep trails. You could see all these sheep trails, and I'm glassing, and I see a ewe bedded just, I don't know, like less than 100 yards away. And like that was just amazing seeing it that close. And then we're watching where these rams, they went down to bed, and we're watching, we keep looking at this hill, and then Clay's just like, there they are, like there's the ram. Like it's been hours, like I'm like, oh, are they even here? Like the doubts start to come in your mind, like I'm wondering, like, oh well, like why don't we just go hike over there and look? But no, like patience is the big thing. Then these two rams come out, and then I'm trying to signal to Chris that they're there. We're like, I'm trying to get Chris to get down because he's crouching, but yeah, they could probably see him if they were looking in that direction.
So Chris, do you know these guys are trying to reach you? Like they're physically trying to signal you?
Yeah, like you see arms waving and all this stuff going on. You kind of don't know what's happening, right? And we're kind of on this, I don't want to say a knife edge, but we're kind of on this goat trail, and I'm just kind of off the edge of it, right? So you think you're hidden, right? But those sheep in their eyes, I mean, they're incredible what they can see and the movement they can pick up, right? And they know their area like the back of their hand. So anything that is different, you really got to be cautious of. And so I kind of see these guys, like all of a sudden they duck down and they're kind of waving, and I'm like, oh, what's going on, right? And so
no, you're like looking around, like you don't see us for like at least 5 minutes. I run down to get you.
You started running down to come get me, and then I'm like, oh, what's going on here? What is he doing? I think I'm like La La Land. I don't know. And so I had a lot of the gear. I think I had the spotter and the tripod, I think.
Yes.
And that was the key. So when I saw him kind of halfway down to me, I dropped off, I grabbed everything, and then I kind of walked the other side of the edge, kind of getting back up to them, trying to stay low, and got back up to Clay and Aiden. And then we watched these two rams. I don't know, it felt like hours. I don't know.
Yeah.
And they were just mulling around feeding. The one was real close. It was hard to tell. The other one wasn't legal, but he was close. But the other one was borderline probably a shooter, but it was hard to tell from the distance we were at. And so again, patience, right? We sat there, we kind of watched him until, I don't know, until pretty much last light, I think, or pretty close to.
Yeah.
And we figured, you know, the next day we'll come up and we'll make a play on him. But then this is when Clay's knee really started to give him a hard time. You know, again, this was his second sheep hunt. You know, he's, you know, 31 plus a few decades, and you know, he's a tough SOB, but I think the knee just started really giving him a bit of a hard time. And so and then, you know, we think about when you're out in these areas, you can kind of find old camps, and you know, we found some old camps. We found, you know, a grill to cook on, found some rubber mats and different things. And so, you know, we took a rubber mat and some rope, and I think he took his gaiters and he started strapping up his knee to kind of stiffen it up because couldn't really bend it. And so we got back to camp that night, and you know, we kind of made a decision the next day. Clay was gonna hang out at camp, and Aiden and I would make a play on those two rams we saw. And so the next morning we had walkie-talkies. I'll let him take over this part of the story.
We've got these camouflage walkie-talkies. I have one, and I like Clay's back at camp and he's watching through the spotter, and he would alert us if the rams came out. And I have this walkie-talkie, and I'm taking it in and out of my pocket, turning it on and off, just waiting to hear something. And we get to the steep part, and we're climbing up, and it's bush, and we're bushwhacking through the buckbrush. And then I go to check my walkie-talkie, and it's no longer in my pocket. So we, I don't know how long we spent. A little while looking for it, but there was no hope in finding it.
Zero hope in that, I'm sure. Yeah.
So it goes back. One of the things Clay, you know, old time knowledge, right? He has string on every single one of his zippers, on his pack, on everything he has. So anytime he closes his zippers, he ties them together and ties them up. And I think that's, you know, that's where experience comes in, right? Is that buckbrush can just grab onto you. I learned that when I was on my goat hunt the previous year, hence why I had a new iPhone 16. I was halfway up the mountain, and I go to look for my phone, and my pocket had been ripped open, and my phone was gone. And you know, so that kind of changed the whole dynamic of that hunt. And so you kind of learn, you know, you hope you learn those lessons when it's not something super serious. But you know, luckily it was just a walkie-talkie, and we were able to manage. But I think Clay was kind of trying to radio us all day and getting no response, kind of going, "What are you guys doing?" Right?
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
So this was kind of three humps. There was kind of like, we called them like three nipples. And so there was kind of like a bigger one in the middle, and the rams were on the far one, and we kind of came up on this one. And so kind of same deal. You know, we had Clay's, you know, patience in our mind, you know, going back and forth. So we kind of got up into a spot where we thought we had pretty good vision of where these rams had been coming up to feed the previous day. And so again, the two of us just hunkered down there. I don't know. We had to have been there for like 10 hours.
Yeah, just cooking in the sun. Just,
oh my God.
Like taking off our boots, like, I mean, you name it, stripping down as much as you can, trying to hide in you know, the little crevasse that we had.
We take turns. There's like a little cliff, and underneath it there's a bit of shade. We take turns going and sitting in the shade while the other person stays in glasses.
Yeah, luckily there wasn't any bugs or anything on this trip. We got kind of lucky there, being, you know, late August at this time. But yeah, one thing we haven't touched on was the elk in that area. I mean, there were some giant elk in that area, and I tell you what, for August, man, were they rutting. We saw giant elk, probably pushing a harem of, I don't know, 8-10 cows through the bush. Clay, I mean, right from camp, he just whistled, and he basically almost brought a giant bull elk into camp, and that thing stood there just bugling at us for probably an hour.
Wow.
Looking at us, knew exactly what we were, but he was so love drunk, he wasn't going anywhere, and it was quite entertaining. So anyways, that area, yeah, but you're so far back, I mean, there's nothing you can do unless you got horses.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, back to the sheep. We sat there until basically we were like fried, and there was just no sign of these rams that day. So we decided, hey, let's go take a look. Let's go up and over and look around the areas and just see if they're somewhere around. And we poked all around, and they just weren't there anymore. And so we pulled the pin and made the trek back to camp. And then, I think we had to go down, and we went down as a group, the three of us with Clay, and stocked up on water. Poor guy with his bum knee was still toughing it out. I mean, he's, like I said, he's as tough as they come. And yeah, I think that day, both Aiden and I were kind of just feeling cooked from the sun, and we had been hiking like 10K every day. And so I was kind of like, I don't know, I think I might sleep in tomorrow.
So would you call this your like the low point of your hunt? Like on most of these big hunts, you'll hit a point in time where morale might take a little bit of a beating, and you're like, yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
I guess if there was a low point in the hunt, this would probably have been it.
Yeah.
I mean, we weren't getting too snippy with each other or anything like that, but I think morale wise, you were starting to feel it a bit. I was losing weight like crazy at this point. I was in a major calorie deficit. I mean, I had probably already lost 20 pounds by this point. I think I was probably down 4 belt loops from the time we started, which this wasn't even a week in. I think we were on like day 5 or 6 at this point. So, I mean, I was just shedding weight like crazy. And like I said, I was drinking like probably 6 liters of water a day, which, at home here, I struggle to drink 2 liters of water a day, but out there, I tell you, it goes down a lot easier. And so, yeah, we were kind of like, I don't know. I was like, I think I'm going to sleep in tomorrow. I wouldn't mind getting a bit of rest. My body's feeling it. I was mentally starting to get a bit fatigued physically. And Aiden was like, well, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. and I'm going to go solo. Well, I don't think that didn't end up happening.
I blame it on my phone. It wasn't charging that night. Couldn't set an alarm, but no, I was also exhausted. Like it just felt like I needed to sleep in, so I decided that night, no, I'll just sleep in and we'll see what happens.
You know what? Sometimes, like Ronnie Dirksen, good buddy here on Spike Camp, he calls it the Sabbath day. He takes one day in the middle of the hunt and does nothing. And sometimes it's rain that forces you to do that, or weather. But sometimes you just need a little break. I mean, you're out there for a long haul.
Yeah. So so I think a good point is I took my my Big Blue and my battery bank, even though my phone was dead. We were using it to keep his phone and Zolio's and everything else charged. Well, for whatever reason that night, it didn't charge his phone. So it didn't set off his alarm because I guess the phone died. Well, we get the Clay alarm clock. I don't know, 8 a.m. Boys, get out of bed. We got a ram. And,
oh my goodness. Right on.
So, we fly out of the tent. We're, trying to put everything together and hop on the spotter and, kind of where the spire was that we had been at a couple days before, down a little bit from there was a bench. And I mean, there's this amazing looking ram just sitting right at the top, glistening in the sun, just chewing his breakfast and just sitting there, king of the castle. You know what I mean? And Clay, with his experience, he's like, that's a good ram. You need to go after him now. And so, you know, we're flinging everything together as fast as we can, not really thinking through water, not really thinking through food. I forgot to mention 2 days before, when we had kind of come down, we had a jug of water up there, a 4-liter we had stashed in the bush. So we already had some water up there, which was nice. Again, the experience of a guy like Clay knowing to do something like that, that'll come back in the future story here about how that paid dividends. But I mean, I think Aiden and I don't know if we floated over there or if it was just sheer adrenaline or what. But I mean, we made it down the saddle and up the Hog's Back and ran that ridge all the way up over the top of that spire. And I don't know, couldn't have been more than an hour and a half. I think it was probably less than that.
I think it was like an hour.
And so we were cooking, like we were boogieing. I mean, Clay lit a fire under our ass and we were making it happen. And so we got up to the spire and belly crawled up to the top, and sure enough, there's this ram standing probably, I think I ranged it at 500 yards. It was kind of this, I don't know, it was like this perfectly flat ridge that went out probably, I don't know, 700 yards or 600 yards. Couldn't have been more than, I don't know, 50 or 100 yards wide. And there was just cliffs on both sides. And it was kind of like a knife edge. It just went to a point. And so we stood there kind of watching the ram, ranging him, trying to figure out, like, you know, if he's legal, and I didn't really want to take a 500-yard shot. I was really comfortable up to 400. You know, I had been practicing out to, before we'd gone, I went out one last time up East Harrison, and I think I split a rock about this big at 450 yards. So I was feeling pretty confident, but I wanted it to be a closer shot than that. And I wanted to get closer to confirm for sure. You know, this is my first ram, never really aged a ram before. You know, I really wanted it to be full curl. I didn't want to be going on age alone. And so, but the ram, he was moving around, and he kind of walked out to the tip of this knife edge and kind of went down to the side rocks, and he bedded down. And so we were like, this is perfect. Let's back out a little bit. We'll drop down behind and kind of circle around where he can't see us, and try to cut the distance. And so we did that. And as we were kind of going out, we noticed the ram kind of pop up. Well, Aiden noticed the ram kind of pop up. And so we stop and we freeze and we get down and kind of watch him. And he goes out to the knife edge point and just disappears. And so, you know, as we're kind of going along this stretch that's really flat and just perfect sheep area, there's kind of a little knoll there. So, you know, we have Clay's voice in our head saying, you know, patience, voice, patience, you know, let him come to you type thing. And so we dropped our packs and kind of used that as a kind of a blind. And then we just kind of laid down behind our packs at about 200 yards from where we thought the ram had gone and bedded. And we just waited again, probably five hours maybe, till around 3 p.m. We were just, again, cooking in the sun. I think there were some ants on that little hill that were giving us some bites, and we were hanging out. But, you know, this is day 6 or 7 now at this point. I can't remember exactly. And I don't know. At 3 o'clock, I was kind of like, all right, I'm getting impatient now. Like, enough of this waiting around. He's not coming back up. I don't know when he's going to come back up. I'm like, look, let's just drop all of our gear. Let's take our spotter. Let's take the rifle. We had left the rifle back at camp with Clay. So naturally it was my rifle. So I became shooter that day. So we kind of walked out to this knife edge. It just, you know, it got pretty narrow. I don't know, probably 4 feet wide, not maybe 5 feet wide, not very wide. And I mean, you're talking 1,000, 1,500 foot drops on all sides. And so, you know, I put everything down and just kind of got right down on my belly and just kind of brought myself right out to the very tip of this edge. And I just look over and look straight, like literally straight down. And there's this ram bedded down right at the tip, probably 15 yards below me, 100, like straight vertical. And obviously my eyes are just like, whoa, what am I? And so the way it was kind of like these rock column spires that were coming up, and there was kind of a saddle between the edge of where we were and these rock spires, and he was just bedded in one of these saddles, chewing his lunch, just staring off in the valley below. And so I kind of back out and like doing hand signals, right? And so he kind of goes out and takes a look, and now his eyes are just like saucers, right? So we're both sitting there. This is our first ram that we're kind of on, and he's literally 15 yards below us. I'm moving, and I got rocks sticking to my hands from crawling out there, and I'm just like, I don't want anything dropping off, making any noise. So, it's pretty nerve-wracking. So I asked Aiden, I kind of told him, I said, stay here. You stay here. I'm going to go around, and I'm going to look, and I'm going to take my rifle and see if this is a good ram.
Oh, so at this point, you don't know if this is the ram or not. You just know it's a ram because of the vertical you couldn't tell.
The vertical I couldn't tell, and he was kind of half hidden where he was. I could see his butt and his body. I could only see part of his head. Yeah, but he had good mass. He was a big boy. But I just couldn't get a good look at him from where he was based on the angle. So I backed out of there and kind of dropped down on this side ridge and made my way around so I was level with him, and came out kind of beside him. I was maybe 20, 25 yards from the ram. Slowly brought in my spotting scope, kind of got it set up and had it on an angle. And luckily, one of the guys that I'm on the board with, SCI, gave me a really nice Shoro to borrow to take out there. So had really, really good glass. Set it up, and I'm watching this ram, and didn't really get a good look. I must have counted, to 8, like, I don't know, 100 times, Sure. But then he finally kind of shifted his head and turned. And as soon as he did that, I could just see the 2 points just breaking the nose. It wasn't a lot, but it was enough that I was pretty I was like 99.9% sure he was full curl. I was also confident that he was 8 years old. So once I saw both tips at the same level breaking the nose, Clay had kind of gone over it with us quite a few times.
Yes.
And, he's been on so many sheep hunts. He had a plethora of pictures. So every night in our tent, we're going through photos, looking at rams and trying to age them and trying to confirm and making sure, right? So again, having that experience really paid dividends.
Sure.
It felt like I was glassing this ram forever. But, talking to this guy after, he's like, it couldn't have been more than 5 minutes.
It felt like forever. Like those moments, it was just like,
time slowed down.
Yeah,
time really, really slowed down. And, I wanted to make sure. I didn't want to make a mistake. I was in it for the experience. Kind of that's what I had told Clay all along, is that, a ram to me is a bonus, but getting out there, learning and having the experience, that's what I'm really there for. But once I saw it breaking the nose on both sides, I moved the spotter out of the way, brought in my Christensen Arms 300 short mag. I got a Shoro on it too. Again, I'm at 20, 25 yards. I mean, it's like a chip shot, right? And so, put it right through the neck. I'll let Aiden maybe take over a bit of the story here, because he tells it better than I do.
Yeah. He takes the shot, and the ram's instantly down. Like it's an instant death. It's lights out. And I am so happy. Like I just yell, like, let's go. Like, yeah. So I run over to Chris, and we're both looking at it, and it has some nerves, so it's fully lights out. And then it's kind of jittering, and then it starts moving down the saddle, and we're like, no, stop. And 1 second later, it's just it's tumbling down, and it's going off cliffs. It's 10 feet in the air. It's rolling down this 1,000-foot drop. And when it's down, Chris is like, "Are you sure it's dead?" And that, but I just started laughing. I was, yes, it's 100%.
I think I asked Ed the same question after I stuffed a few rounds through mine and he tumbled down a bunch of rocks. I was like, is he down? I was like, he is now. I know the feeling. So
Yeah, it was just you know, it was the nerves, it was adrenaline, everything kind of coming out at once. And you know, once I saw him tumbling down, all I could think of is, oh, he's gonna be all beat up. You know, the horns are gonna be all destroyed, or all these thoughts are running through my mind. So we kind of just go up, we grab everything we need that we're gonna need to cape him out and break him down. And got all our gear. We left a bunch of stuff up there that we didn't necessarily need, and it was quite the hike down to get to the ram. He ended up in quite a position, you know, as they usually do. And of course, with my phone not charging and Aiden's phone being dead that day, unfortunately, we had no photos of the ram actually being down, which is, you know, unfortunate, but you know, again, it goes back to the learning, right? Some valuable lessons there. So all our photos are kind of the aftermath. So, you know, we get down to the ram and, you know, we're just in awe. You know, it's just such an incredible animal. And, you know, we start hearing noises in the bush. I mean, branches breaking, and like it just sounds like something is right there. So of course we're like, hey bear, and you know, now panic's kind of setting in. So you know, we got the one rifle, it's loaded, we're not letting it go out of our sight. And you know, we start breaking it down, and of course the adrenaline dump happens. So you know, I gotta go do a number 2 now in the bush on this steep cliff. It's you know, it's just like it never fails. Like everything in your body just all of a sudden wants to come out. And so we're breaking it down. You know, it's now getting pretty late in the day. You know, we've both broken animals down. I've only caped out my bear before, but I had all day in the world to do it. This was a little bit more nerve-wracking. So you know, a few cuts and you know, on my hands and whatever, and we ended up getting it done. Not probably, I mean, you know, Clay is like, did a blind guy do this? You know, like we got back to camp the next day, and he's kind of looking at it going, what the heck were you guys doing, you know? But we were, you know, I think it was a multitude of factors. One, you know, hearing whatever was in the bush kind of gave us a bit of a, you know, lighting a fire under our butt. And then, you know, it was getting late in the day and we kind of wanted to make it back to camp. We were quite low on water at this time, and we didn't know where the nearest water was. We were kind of guessing. So we went fairly quick. We kept the bone in just because we didn't want to spend the time boning it out. So we were pretty heavy coming out of there. Luckily, Aiden is like a pack mule. I mean, you know, the kid can carry his weight and then some. So we loaded up. We were heavy, and we started the trek back to camp. It was brutal.
Yeah,
it was brutal. You know, no matter how much adrenaline you have and how much energy you have from, you know, harvesting an amazing animal like that, it definitely kicked our butt on the way out. So we got back up to the rest of where our gear was. There was a bit of water there. You know, we sucked up what was there and loaded up the rest, and it was dark by this point, so we were headlamping it. And you know, it gets a little nerve-wracking. You're headlamping in grizzly country with meat on your back in the dark. And we heard bushes, you know, rattling. So, you know, we were pushing, and I couldn't stop fascinating about water. I mean, for the last, I don't know, 3-4 hours or whatever it was of that hike, all I could think about was just water. Like I couldn't think of anything else.
Mhm.
And so we pushed it really hard. I think we got back to camp at about, I don't know, 1 a.m., something like that.
Yeah.
And we gave Clay a good wake up call. Thank goodness he had gone down and loaded up with a bunch of water for us. So when we got back to camp, I was just like, I think I came into camp and, Clay comes out of the tent and I'm just like, oh my God, we made it. And sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah. I mean, when you run out of water, especially in a situation like that, you get that anxiety. The panic attack starts to set in. You're gonna die. All these thoughts in your head. Everything gets amped up, right?
Yeah, it was nerve wracking. And but luckily, Clay with his experience, he had gone down and stocked up with a bunch of water, and so I think we both, I don't know how much water we chugged back, but liters.
Yeah.
And we got all the meat kind of hung up in the one tree there, and the horns and everything, and hit the sack. And then the next day was what you called it, Sabbath. The next day was for sure Sabbath. We took all the meat down to the spring, got it all into garbage bags, dunked in the water to stay cool, loaded up with a bunch of water, cleaned up the cape, the mess that was there. And Clay, with his expertise, turned all the lips and the nose and the eyes and the ears. And I mean, the magic that he worked is phenomenal, considering the spill that it took. I mean, somehow it didn't break a bone on that ram, that huge fall, but it did manage to knock out all of its teeth. So somehow I think it was just face planting the whole way down.
Oh shit.
And so when we were, or when I say when Clay was kind of skinning it up, in like the upper gums, way up in the back, one incisor tooth
Jammed up in there. Oh wow.
jammed
Get
up
lucky.
in there. So we took a bunch of pictures of that, and just to make sure we had evidence to show in case it ever came up. And we tried to help where we could with caping it and cleaning it, and I think we deboned as well that day, and got all that done. And then, like I said, we got everything sunk into the spring, and then it was time to put weight back on. I mean, we had that grill, we had a little fire. Me and you ate the heart. We had the tenderloins, we had some little bit of backstrap. I mean, again, Clay with his experience, he had salt, pepper, garlic powder, Montreal steak. I mean, it felt like the best meal I've eaten in my life. And it very well could have been, to be honest. We had stew. I mean, we were eating good, to the point where in a few days I was back to the belt loop I was on before we went in. So I think we went through like a whole front shoulder, and we were eating good at that point.
You might as well. It's amazing meat if you're up there.
No better place to eat it too.
Yeah.
Exactly. It kind of felt right. And so then the next day we did the hike out. I think we were pretty heavy. I mean, I don't know. We were probably running somewhere between 110, 120 pounds. And so we did the hike out that next day to the first camp, and had a few good spills. It didn't take much. I mean, you step on one little tree root, and as soon as your momentum changes, you're going down. You can't stop it when you're carrying that kind of weight. Luckily, we no injuries or anything like that. But Clay at this point his knee was still pretty banged up, but I mean, the guy never complained. Like I said, he's one of the toughest guys I know, and so we made it back to first camp again. Ate well that night, had more stew, and then we did the long push out the next day, back to kind of where the airstrip was on the river, and kind of got all set up there, got the meat dunked and cooling down, and figured maybe we'd do a bit of elk calling. Again, Clay's just an expert at pretty much anything when it comes to being in the outdoors, whether it's a bushman, doesn't matter what species you're hunting. And, he had an elk bugling, I think, that night, but nothing materialized. The next day I tried my luck at fishing, managed to get some grayling, or I don't know if you want to call them grayling or you want to call them bony fish, but we had some stew and some fish soup, and we picked a couple pounds of wild raspberries, and we were eating like kings at that point. And Clay worked his magic again on the bugle, and he pulled this bull in from, I don't know, kilometers away. But it was really cold that next day, and we were afraid with weight and everything else whether or not we'd be able to get out if we even took one. So decided not the best interest not to harvest a bull. And so whether it had also it was just fortuitous. Literally the day after we had harvested the ram, the smoke rolled in and you couldn't see anything, and it was kind of like that the rest of the trip. So I mean, between the replacement, between harvesting a ram and smoke showing up, I mean, everything just happened for a reason that trip. It was like it was meant to be, and I feel very blessed to have been a part of such a hunt and to have all the luck that we had. So the next day we got picked up, we got out of there, and ended up doing the long trek back home, and it was a trip of a lifetime. Memories that I'll never forget. One of the big things that I think Clay really enjoyed was my Helinox zero chair, and so
Yeah, I bet he did.
So when we got back, that was one thing that Aiden and I decided to surprise him with, was the Helinox zero chair as a gift and a thank you. And we all exchanged multiple gifts, kind of going back and forth, just because it was just such an experience and such a bonding experience, but just something that I'll never forget from my life, no matter what happens.
Yeah, what an awesome trip. Well, I have questions, so let's start chipping away here. And I know people are dying to know. So, what was the confirmed age of the ram, and what were the specifications on measurements, etc.?
Yeah, so he had really thick bases, 14.5-inch bases, and then the number 2 is like 13.5-inch bases. I had SCI, now that I got that kind of in my back pocket. So
you know somebody.
I know somebody. So obviously we waited a while, but it's with John at Bear Paw Taxidermy out in Mission. He does amazing work. I've done some work with Jenna before, and Clay.
I think Jenna's on. I think she's on the show tonight, actually.
Oh yeah, she does amazing work. She's incredible, and I can't say enough about what she does. But with Clay's relationship, he was like, we're taking it here, and so took it out to him, and Clay and him were putting the tape on it. I mean, they couldn't believe it when it was taping out at 39 inches. I think they actually went and got a second tape measure because they thought the first one was not accurate, and we're taping it again because he's just really far back and really deep set. A lot of the guys that were looking at it that are really old school sheep hunters were kind of like, oh, he's probably 34, 35 inches, but
no, he's deep. Yeah, he's got such deep curls. I'm pulling the picture back up for people to see here. That's the one thing when you texted me this picture, that's the first thing I said. Goes back to one of Kevin Willis tips said. He goes, when the ram can put his head down on the ground and his head doesn't touch but his horns do, that's a deep curl, and that's a stud ram. So 39. He goes way back. He's heavy, carries mass. What was the score at the end of the day? Or did you have to do the waiting period, or was this green scored?
Yeah, so we waited, but we rough scored them at the time when it was fresh at like around 165, approximately. SCI, when they scored it just a couple weeks ago, He scored out at 162 and 4/8. So,
Okay.
you know, still a
Wow.
pretty solid score. You know, I couldn't be more pleased. He's gonna make the SCI, I think silver or whatever.
Mhm.
You know, when I get him back, I'll see about whether or not it makes the BC book. But yeah, he scored quite well. You know, age wise, he's a tricky one to age. So I actually know Jack Evans, so I reached out to Jack and I said, you know, he got aged at 8, but I would really like to know if that's truly what it is, what comes back from the incisor tooth. I got a
Mhm.
feeling he's potentially older than that. He's just such a unique ram, and he had the big Roman nose, the big pot belly. Like, um, I got a feeling he might be older, but he's a really tricky ram to age. So,
Yeah.
I'm fortunate that he was full curl on both sides. You know, not by a ton. He was probably full curl by half an inch on one side and about 3/16 of an inch on the other side. So it was close, you know, it was
Yeah.
nip and tuck, but I'm happy that I was able to get a ram that, you know, when I set my goal to get a full curl, that he was.
Mhm.
He didn't even fit in the jig. Like, that's how you know, big his mass was. They had a really hard time getting him in the jig um to confirm he was full curl.
Yeah, he's a banger of a ram. Congratulations, man. It's so cool to see. You know, and your smile too is just like it's off the hook, Chris. I was so happy for you when you messaged me about this, and it was just a fun experience. I'm super jacked for myself. I hate to be you know, hate to be selfish, but I'm getting my ram scored this weekend up in Dawson. It's up
Nice.
there right now. Brogan's got it, and he's doing well. There, we have a replica being finished up there, and Brogan's painting the replica this week for me. But I get to pick it up, and Josh Hamilton's going to score mine. And again, it's not about score, but I'm just dying to know. I'm just dying to know. I've had so many guys look at my ram too, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I got a variation in numbers." So, but you know, what a great experience. And Aiden, I have a question for you. Like, you can see it again in your eyes when you start talking about it, but you know, if you were to summarize this trip in a couple of sentences from start to finish, how would you do that?
Oh, that's a tough one. Like
Yeah.
100% trip of a lifetime. Like I think this I think was my favorite trip of all time. Like the most amazing trip in the scenery and how everything fell into place. It was just everything about it was incredible. And the feeling of like gratitude when we got that ram and excitement and that adrenaline, like looking down and seeing that ram after days of just sitting in the sun and morale being a little bit down, and we're sitting there and we're before we walk out to the edge, it's like, oh, Chris is kind of like, okay, well, he got us again, like it's probably gone. But
Mhm.
we go out, we look, and I'm like, oh shoot, it's probably not here. We kind of look around, and then Chris walks out to the very point, looks right down, and I just see him, his eyes, they're just
Unbelievable. Hey,
and
crazy.
I looked at, I think it was less than 15 yards. Like when I tell people the story, like I say, like I could have just pissed on it. It was right there. And
He was that close, eh?
and
Wow.
yeah, like I could just see the base, and they were like thick, and you could see that it was banged up. Like, just knew it was a good ram, and how everything played out. It was
Yeah, it's
yeah,
a crazy story when you think about it, right? Like 2 days before you leave, you don't even have a sheep hunting partner. You're going to go by yourself. Chris's partner gets injured. He's out, you know, he's out a partner. His trip's on the line. And then you've got this cagey old veteran who's just willing to come along, you know, take you guys on this adventure. It's basically like you guys went on, you know, sheep 101 course for 2 weeks, right? Like
for sure.
what a privilege to have such a good guy teaching you.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I owe so much to him in so many ways. I told him I owe him, 39 favors at this point. Whatever he needs, I'm there for him, and in any which ways ever needed. Not only is he an incredible sheep hunter, but he's just a real genuine, incredible guy all around. And there's a lot of people I think in the sheep hunting world that owe a lot to him in so many different ways. And, I'll never forget his willingness to take a couple guys that don't know anything about sheep hunting and basically take us under his wing and teach us everything he knows. And, I'm forever grateful.
Yeah,
Oh,
me
that's
as
so
well.
awesome.
The amount of stuff we learned and caping it out and separating the cape from the horns. He has a special tool that he has, and he brought along, and he ended up giving me the tool at the end of the trip, and it showed like just everything, like the tips, like just the small things. Like he'll say something at first you don't understand why, and then later it'll become evident that that small thing allowed this whole thing to happen. Like that like just the small things that add up to allow you to be successful and stay safe when you're in the backcountry.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a little piece of the puzzle, and there's a million pieces, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So curious, Chuck, your round, what do you think it's rough scoring at?
Well, I'm certainly not someone who's big on score, but it was green scored in the same range as yours, in that 164-ish range.
Nice.
14-inch bases, 14 and a half is what one came out at, but that was green. And I haven't seen the ram now in months, and hopefully that dry air up there hasn't shrunk it too much, but I really don't care. I really don't care. It's like I've said so many times, it might be the only ram that I ever take, and I couldn't be happier. I'm just jacked to see it, the replica. And yeah, I got the replica done for Ed because it's a team sport, and he's done so much for me in my hunting career in the last couple of years. And yeah, he deserves that on his wall too. So
Yeah, well, congrats to you too. I mean, I know you put in a lot of time and a lot of years and a lot of effort. So, big congrats to you and Ed. And I've seen Ed on the podcast. I've followed him for the last couple of years, on the platform. And again, you're lucky to have such a good guy like that to be able to go with. And I think we all have to just be very fortunate and grateful to be able to meet these guys and have these opportunities. And I'll say thanks to you, Chuck, again, you and Blake for this platform, because without it, there's a lot of people out there, I think, that are connecting because of this platform. And so, big thanks to you guys for all the effort that you put in. I can't say that enough.
oh well, we really appreciate that. And I hear it all the time. The sheep hunting community and the hunting space is a community and a family, and it really is, and it extends beyond Spike Camp to all the groups. So this is the time where we all get together in the winter for all these shows. And I'm not as jacked for the shows as I am for hunting season, but I'm certainly jacked for show season to get to see everybody and get to these wonderful events and shake hands and talk. When we do the show in Penticton, my family just shakes their head because I just stand at our booth and it's nonstop. It's like, it's a 72-hour live stream, just nonstop, and it's so much fun. But you know what?
You up there?
Yeah, I can't wait. Boy, I told you it'd be over an hour and a half, Chris, an hour 40. So, well, thank you guys for the story. We have a little bit of housekeeping to do here at the end. And for those that stuck it out, I've got a giveaway of a Mountain Fuel combo again, brought to you from our buddies at Wilderness Athlete. This is coffee and Trailfare Foods. So the winner for tonight's giveaway is Amanda Jones. Congratulations, Amanda. I'll reach out on the platform and we will get this shipped off to you. And also, speaking of the show season, as everybody knows, this coming weekend, we have the Northern Fundraiser up in Dawson Creek. make sure you check out what's available to bid on. I'm not certain what is online, etc. But if you're not going, send some money with somebody. Every year, this community is just filled with so many amazing people. We've got all these artists, craftsmen, small businesses, large companies. They donate all these prizes, whether it's a piece of art or if it's hunting gear or hunting trips. Let's make sure we turn that into some real money for these groups. This is their one time a year where they get all their fundraising done. And if you get a chance to meet any of these companies that are donating or these individuals that are creating these wonderful pieces of art, make sure you go and shake their hands. After Dawson, then we have shortly after the Salute to Conservation in Penticton. And then, of course, the SCI West Coast Banquet. And I think that is actually the same weekend as our friends over in Alberta. I think they have their Wild Sheep Banquet on the same weekend. But one thing I want to talk about, we are soon going to be launching the ticket sales for the Spike Camp Modern Classic Rifle. So this is a raffle that's being run through Wild Sheep Society of BC. 100% of the proceeds, 100% of the proceeds go to the society. So we're calling it the Spike Camp Modern Classic Rifle because all of the components and all the work going into it come from our community, from some of our members. So I'm going to name them out. Don Lynham supplying the hard components, the action, the barrel, the trigger. Ed Thompson, well, we know what Ed's doing. He's hand carving a beautiful piece of Turkish walnut and turning it into just a priceless rifle stock. Mitch Kendall, I think Mitch is on here tonight. I thought I saw him earlier. Mitch has donated all the gunsmith work that went into fitting everything together, the chambering, the Cerakoting and all of that. And I did a small piece. I threw in a scope into it. So the components of this rifle, the build specs, they're going to be online here soon. But it's a Defiance Classic Action. It's a benchmark carbon fiber barrel. It's chambered in 280 Ackley. It's got a Trigger Tech trigger and a Leopold VX5. And of course, like I said, it's got an Ed Thompson hand-carved Turkish maple stock. We're not done yet. We have more stuff that we're giving away with this rifle. We've also got a handmade leather sling made by Brian Thompson. That's Ed's dad. He's a heck of a leathersmith as well. And we have a custom knife coming from Don Stevenson. If I was asked to put a value on this because we had to put a lottery license on it with Kyle. I said it's like 15 grand or more for this package. Like the stock itself is really priceless. And Ed's just about ready to get the finish started on it. So keep an eye on the internet. Watch the social media platforms for Wild Sheep and Spike Camp. Tickets go on sale February 2nd. I think we have 600 tickets at $50 each. Let's see if we can sell this thing out on day one. Let's get 30 grand for Wild Sheep. That would be really, really cool coming from our brothers and sisters at Spike Camp and in the Wild Sheep community. So watch for it, folks. February 2nd, those tickets are up. So anyway, look forward to seeing you all soon. Boys, Aiden, Chris, Clay, congratulations on a stud ram, and thank you very, very much for doing the show. The Ram Down series has been a blast, and there's more to come. So we'll see you all soon. Thanks, and have a good night.
Thanks a lot, Chuck. Take care.